My dear children of class 11, let's start from here in page 12. The woman nodded and picked up the suitcase under the coat rack, and she wore a brown coat and a shapeless hat. Who was she? She was Mrs. Darling. Does she live far away? I asked, seeing the difficulty she had going out of the house with a heavy case. That means whenever Mrs. Darling came to their house, she collected many things and went home to show that she was keeping all those things in a safe custody. In Marconi Street, said my mother. Number 46, remember that. So this was remembered by the narrator. So after the war, after suffering from the Holocaust, she had a challenging attitude towards life, and she came back again to collect all the mother's possessions. So initially, she wanted to see all the past things associated with the mother. I had remembered it, but I had waited a long time to go there. Initially, after the liberation, I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff. Now, all the material possessions, the antique plates, the vases, the cutlery set and all this were just stored stuff. And actually, I was also rather afraid of it. Why afraid of it? Because she did not want to see all those things which would arouse pity, which would arouse sadness, and she would be filled with dejection, frustration and sorrow. The melancholy would haunt her in such a way that she wanted to forget. Now, afraid of being confronted with things that had belonged to a connection that no longer existed, she did not want to confront with all those things which no longer existed. Why no longer existed? Because those things were related to her mother, which were hidden away in cupboards and boxes and waiting in vain until they were put back in their place again. And they were also arranged in disorderly manner, isn't it? Because all those were taken by someone else, not the mother, not her also, which had endured all those years because they were things, and which had endured, remained all those years because they were things, simply things, and things are put within inverted comma. You see, that means these are only material things which doesn't have any value. But gradually everything became more normal again. Bread was getting to be a lighter color. There was a bed you could sleep in unthreatened, a room with a view you were more used to glancing at each day. What does it mean? That means she could sleep without fear of death. So bread was getting to be a lighter color. Gradually she was coming out of the shock, coming out of the trauma of the Holocaust and all these things. And the avoidance of Mrs. Darling. That was a big thrill. So she restored normalcy. And one day I noticed I was curious about all the possessions. Again the narrator suddenly thought that she became eager about, or rather inquisitive of all those possessions that must still be at that address. I wanted to see them, touch, remember. So she felt in that way that she wanted to touch them. She wanted to remember all those things. After my first visit in vain, that means the first visit yielded no fruit. It was an unsuccessful effort on Mrs. S. daughter's part. To Mrs. Darling's house, I decided to try a second time. So she wanted to go for a second time. Now a girl of about 15 opened the door to me. Now girl of about 15 means Mrs. Darling's daughter, good and simple natured. We shall come to know right now. Now a girl of about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. No, she said. My mother's doing an errand. No matter, I said, I'll wait for her. Now the narrator was so determined at that time and so resolute that she wanted to remain there. She wanted to wait there with ample firmness and determination. I followed the girl along the passage. An old-fashioned iron Hanukkah candle holder hung next to a mirror. and that was hers. That means Mrs. S and her daughters. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. They never used even because it was a bit cumbersome, a clumsy look. "Won't you sit down?" asked the girl. Now the girl asked her, "Won't you sit down?" So this shows the girl was a bit hospitable in nature, simple-natured. She held open the door of the living room and I went inside past her. I stopped, horrified. Why horrified? By seeing the strange environment with their possessions only. I was in a room I knew and did not know. Very, very important line. Children, underline this. I was in a room I knew. Why she knew? Because that room was decorated with all her possessions connected with her mother, but did not know. Why she didn't know? Because it was arranged, all those were arranged in a tasteless manner, in a disorderly manner, not according to their aesthetic sense. I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere. But the atmosphere was very unwelcoming. The atmosphere was very dismayed. The atmosphere was very annoying to her because she was unable to adjust with the strange, peculiar, in a different sort of atmosphere. Or because of the tasteless way everything was arranged that she mentioned, and because of the ugly furniture or the muggy smell that hung there. So all the furniture seemed to be ugly. Why? Because those furniture did not have any connection with her mother, and those were arranged in a bitter way, which she did not like at all. And she felt very melancholic at that time. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around me. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. After seeing the woolen tablecloth, she could well remember, that means the narrator could well remember that that was their tablecloth. I rubbed it. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. That means she was reminiscing the past, the memories of the past evoked in her. I followed the lines of the pattern in this way, very lively portraiture of despondency and the sorrow and the mental trauma which the daughter was undergoing at that time. It's beautifully portrayed by Marca Mingo. Somewhere on the edge there should be a burn mark that had never been repaired. The burn mark was there when Mrs. Dorling had taken, but that was not repaired, and still it remains unrepaired. "My mother will be back soon," said the girl. "I've already made tea for her. Will you have a cup?" That means she requested, Mrs. Dorling's daughter requested her to have a cup of tea. So she was hospitable in nature. She was simple-natured. "Thank you." I looked up. The girl put cups ready on the tea table. She had a broad back, just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot, and that teapot was also of her. All it had was a gold border on the lid, I remembered. She opened a box and took some spoons out. Now the jingling of the spoons also evoked memories of the past, because those spoons or cutlery set, those cups and saucers belonged to them only. "That's a nice box," I heard my own voice. That means the narrator's inner soul spoke out that it was a nice box. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Her own sound was different in this room, and the sound was repulsive to the narrator. The narrator was speaking to herself, but the sound seemed to be repulsive in that environment, adverse environment rather. "That's a nice box," I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. "Oh, you know about them?" She had turned round and brought me my tea. She laughed. "My mother says it's antique. She is so innocent, Mrs. Dorling's daughter, and so simple-natured. She said that my mother says it's antique. We have got lots more. And she confessed that we have got lots more. She pointed around the room. See for yourself. Perhaps Mrs. Darling's daughter did not know that all those antique plates belonged to them only. Okay, up to this, children, and the rest of the portion will be continued in my next video. Thank you.